Hello, hello. My name is April Malone with Yes, I Work From Home, and this is the podcast. Today I have Willow Aldridge with me. She is from Gilbert, Arizona with me. I've kind of been interviewing quite a few people from my area, and I think part of the reason is just because I think it's fascinating how different, like how many different things can even be in one single location. So I do interview people from around the world, but also locally, and I think it's great to have you. Thank you for coming, Willow.
Thank you for having me.
So Willow is a dog trainer and she also boards dogs. She's a full-time student and she stays home with her child. Do you have one or more children? You have.
Just one.
All right. So Willow, tell us a few things. How did you start working from home and when?
So, my work from home experience is a little different because I did the same with the dog boarding and the daycare while I worked. I started from home and then I picked up a few jobs here and there. But evidently, I really liked working at home. So, I kept going back to it. And then I actually left vet med in May of this year and went full time at home.
So when you say vet med, were you like a veterinary tech or what were you doing?
I worked the front, so I dealt with all the calls, all the people, and all the dogs.
How long had you been in the office?
Like daily, or how long did I work there?
Like how many years did you work in the office, the vet office?
So I worked less than a year in the office, but I had previous experience. Growing up, my grandma was a dog rescuer and was super close with the vet in their very small town. And from the age of like 8 on, he let me come sit with them and watch the surgeries. And I did appointments, I gave vaccines. So I had a lot of experience prior, but I jumped into vet med after leaving another job that the pay wasn't that great.
Yeah. And how old is your kiddo?
She will be 2 in January.
Oh, little one.
Yep.
I think you told me that you've been working with the dogs from your home for what, like 5 years?
Probably, I started actively doing the business around 2016, but I had been doing training and other types of just basic sitting for about 9 years.
Okay. So I'm excited to have you today because I think your work from home job, your career right now is, a little different than that standard like 9 to 5 thing that a lot of people are doing, the keyboard work and all the phone calls and stuff. You are like literally with dogs 24/7. Can you talk a
Yep.
little bit about like what a normal work day looks like for you right now?
It really depends on the dogs that are staying with me or the dogs that I have to go check in on. Some of the dogs, especially puppies, require more time. So, in between every 2 to 4 hours, even overnight. And some people need me to drop in, around 5 a.m. So my schedule varies pretty much every single day. Some days I'm up at 5, and some days I'm up all night. It really just kind of depends. It's a 24/7 sort of thing.
And you said that your work is a little seasonal. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. Dog boarding requires people be out of town, which means that people go on vacation, which is usually around the summer months or the holidays. So that is when I'm most busy. And right when school gets back in or mid year, it's really slow.
Okay, so here in Arizona, even though the weather is nicest in the fall, winter, and some spring months, summer is when people are trying to get out of Dodge, right?
Right. So I have to stay home.
Yeah. So one of the things we're going to talk a little bit about is some of the isolation that can come with working from home because you've talked about experiencing some of that.
Yeah. I am a people person. I love talking to people and being around people. And when I'm not, it's difficult for me. And so working from home, I very briefly see people. I do a few phone calls here and there to kind of, explain what I'm doing to other people or for training, just consults. But other than that, I don't really see people. And it can get a little lonely talking to just dogs. I It's been difficult. I feel alone a lot, and I don't know how to describe the feeling.
Right. Well, I think a lot of people have felt that way just in general with the pandemic, bringing everybody home and not getting out. Are you taking the dogs out for walks or are you mostly boarding them in do you have like a big yard? How do you do it?
I have a decent sized yard. Thankfully, it is cooling off because during the summer months, it's really only, 5 minutes at a time outside in small increments. And walks are really not a possibility unless I'm going super early in the morning because the
Yeah.
ground is way too hot.
Mhm.
So, I mean, there's activities that I do inside. We do enrichment activities, but outside stuff at the moment, or at least during the super hot days, is not a possibility, which is the only downside.
Yeah. And I don't know, some of the houses in our city really vary as far as sizes. Do you have a basement or any extra space, or are you just kind of like crammed in like we are in a smaller home?
I'm all in one home,
Yeah.
smaller home too. I don't have a basement. I think my yard is bigger than my house.
Mhm.
But I do have everything organized. So upstairs is kind of where my older dog stays because he doesn't really love having puppies all over him all the time. And usually that's for the older dogs. They spend a lot of time upstairs and in my office with me. Whereas the puppies or the dogs who are prone to make a lot of messes stay downstairs. I have a baby gate and everything.
Do you
This
have
just makes it
tile?
easier. What?
Do you have tile flooring?
Downstairs, not upstairs. So it makes it a whole lot easier to clean. And we moved from an apartment. So all of the furniture that I have downstairs is all furniture that was gifted. So it's disposable at this point
Got it. Yeah.
for when we
Uh,
pick
we
a
actually
better place.
we actually met each other through our local Buy Nothing group. The Buy Nothing Project is where people, it's like a giving culture where kind of like free cycling or upcycling things where, one man's trash is another man's treasure, if you will. So I actually learned about the Buy Nothing Project from one of my previous podcast guests. Let me think. I think it was I'm looking really quickly. Nicole Eichinger was, I think, my episode 17. She was a nutrition expert, and she told me about this, and it's kind of been life changing. And we were just talking before we started recording about what a great group it is. Just I was cleaning out my garage, anticipating, company and trying to clean up a few things, and got rid of a lot of things. But a lot of the things that we've brought into our home in the last year and a half or year, I guess it's only been a year, came from the Buy Nothing Project. And
It's a
you
good group.
posted, so one of the things that you can do with Buy Nothing Project is not just give away physical things. You can ask for things that you might need, like before I go to the store to go buy one, I just need to make sure no one's trying to get rid of blank, fill in the blank. And like today is Wednesday, so every Wednesday we have what they call Wishful Wednesday, and people can, just state a big or small request and just kind of put it all in one long thread. So usually we have a good 150, 200 comments to people, saying, I need to borrow a table this weekend, or, does anybody have Halloween decorations? And it's like kind of you anticipate looking for those things. But you actually were using a different kind of another aspect of the group, and that's where you can ask for or give what they call gifts of knowledge, if you use the speak. Yeah. And you were talking about dog training, and you said you were creating a resource that you were willing to share with the group. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I've had a lot of clients, especially clients with puppies who, see on my profile and they're like, "Hey, I know that you're a trainer. Can you show me how to do something?" Or I see a lot of people putting up their dogs for rehoming because they're too much or they don't know how to deal with it or their dog is fearful. And so I wanted to create a resource of everything all in one with pretty much everything that I've learned or that I've, personally trained and experienced all in one group with kind of steps on how to do it and why do it that way. And there are in the document a few other, ways to do that. If you're not comfortable with a certain form of training, there's other ways and different tools. And I talk a little bit about desensitizing a dog, why crate training is important. So I just wanted to create a document where everybody can kind of jump in and, find something that's useful for them to maybe create, a better relationship between a dog and a person. So us as boarders and those people who are needing to post don't have to see the struggle between the dog and the person.
Is this something, I know you said it's still kind of something that's in progress and you're continuing to update it and revamp it, but is it something that you can see yourself making into like a course that you would like sell in the future?
Yeah, I've been thinking about it. I wanted to maybe create a blog that maybe prefaces each of these topics, and then maybe have something like that course or just access to the document to allow people that resource. It's really hard to find a resource that has everything all in one. I know I struggle with finding it when I'm trying to learn a new sport. That's what we're doing right now. Our newest dog is going to be in competition IPO, and I cannot find anything anywhere that's just a good layout of what I should be working on at what point. Because for sport, you've got drive building and all sorts of things like that. And so it's difficult to find something where, here's where you need to build the foundation for this task. So I'm hoping to create something as I learn too, for everybody that could use it.
I'm not a dog owner. We had dogs growing up, usually golden retrievers, family dogs in the country, and they generally were, we lived on a hobby farm, so they were kind of like free range. I don't know how you say it. I don't know if that's a thing still anymore, but I think in more recent years they've, put them in a kennel at night. But when I was a kid, that actually when my parents bought the house that they still live in it now, a dog came with the house. She was like already 16 years old, and she lived several more years. I think she made it to like 21.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So we have one cat, and my daughter actually just finished a cat sitting assignment. She had I think someone in our local community or our neighborhood just posted, is anyone willing to help watch our cats and our bird while we're on vacation this summer. And then that trip fell through, and so they finally were able to get out of town, and my daughter and I went to their house twice a day, and sometimes it was just to let the cats out of the bedroom, and other times it was changing the litter and feeding the bird and scooping, taking out trash and all the different things. So that was really our first experience with whole house sitting, pet sitting thing. I've done it for people myself, but not like with my kid and trying to help her learn the skill. So she likes cats. So we're actually both allergic to our cat.
Oh no.
And we keep like Costco size like Zyrtec. And we both have to take one every single day.
Oh boy.
We're not interested in letting go of our cat. She's already 13 years old, and we figure we can make it through for a few more years. But I just found out that I'm allergic to dogs, and so it's probably a good thing we never got one.
I am very happy that I did not have any allergy. My dad has an allergy to dogs, and it took years of convincing for him to get me my first dog.
Oh yeah, it's a big deal. Because you're basically, oh my goodness, my son, I don't know if I've talked about this on the podcast yet, but he had to write a persuasive essay the other day for school. And he wrote it on why I should get a kitten. And he said it's because, our cat is not going to be with us forever because she's getting older. And, but she's provided him a lot of comfort. And he's had, we live in Arizona, and scorpions are a thing. We actually had a scorpion in our house a few weeks ago. We do have scorpion control who comes. But every once in a while, a stray one will find their way in. And he said, so I've had, a lot of nervousness about scorpions, and the cat will come and like snuggle with me in my bed, and it gives me a lot of comfort. And so I think I should have a kitten, to basically replace. And we've decided that because of the allergy, that once our cat is gone, we will focus on pet sitting for other families, and that will be it. So.
I did something similar to him with a business that I had started a long time ago with my birds. I made a PowerPoint on all the information that I had researched, all of the money that was needed, everything that I would have needed, and why I should do it. And here's the outcome of it. And my parents put it on YouTube and let the people decide.
Oh.
Ultimately, I did get my birds. It was fun.
No, no allergies to birds.
No. Well, they were outside anyways. So
Okay. When you're saying birds, are you talking about quail?
yeah, quail, chickens, and guineas.
Guineas, not guinea pigs. Tell me more.
Guinea fowl, they're a really strange looking bird. Actually, one of my favorites to have. They're great protection birds, kind of like geese. They'll protect your property. Mine used to sit on the top of my house, and anytime somebody walked onto my driveway, they went crazy. They're known to kill off rattlesnakes and scorpions and anything else that's not supposed to be there. That's alive.
That's amazing.
Yeah, they sound like squeaky doors, though. That's the only downside.
Now, were these animals that you had when you were still living with your parents? Did they have a bigger property?
Yeah, my mom ran a small homestead, so we had the space for it, and she taught classes. So I ended up eventually teaching classes on the birds.
We were talking before we started recording that you've done a podcast before talking about raising quail.
Yeah.
Was that like before you had kids or your kid?
Oh, yeah.
Like, was this a while back?
Yeah. That's when I had
'Cause
the
you said-
free time.
You said that you were in an apartment. So have you ever been able to have quail of your own, or are they still with your mom?
I have not had birds since. We have a yard that's big enough, but the fence is not very secure in terms of it's like a barred fence, so you can see through it. It doesn't move, but you can see through it, and definitely birds can get through that.
Oh.
We did a few months ago end up with 2 ducks. I don't know how it happened, but we ended up with 2 ducks. We took care of them for about a month, and then we found them a really good home, actually from someone on our next door page. She came and got them, and they are living the best life. But that's the only bird interaction I've had since then. We are hopefully soon, to get some property with land, but the economy says no.
Not a great time to go buy a big property.
No, unfortunately.
And our city does allow chickens, but you have to have a yard of so many square feet, I think it is, or like, is it half an acre? I can't remember if you have to have.
I'm not
Do you know
sure.
the rules?
I don't. We're
All
in
I
an
know is-
HOA, so I don't really
Yeah.
have much of an option.
All I know is that our neighborhood, I don't think anybody's yard would be big enough. And so even if the HOA allowed it, I don't think that the city would allow it, because I feel like you have to have pretty significantly big. I know people that do have a big enough yard, or that live, outside of our city limits. Sorry, I didn't take my allergy pill today, so I'm a little sniffly. I'm probably going to sneeze here soon. Yeah. So when we started going to a school that had a Montessori and they had chickens, that was, a big deal. And my daughter really wanted chickens of her own. And I'm like, can't do it. Legally can't do it. And that was kind of helpful.
I grew up in Montessori too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yep. Definitely a great school.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really nice because actually we were able to even take a turn, I think over the holiday, like when the school would be on vacation, we could take a turn and go feed the chickens and collect the eggs and keep them, where normally they auction those eggs like for a lot of money, or people will buy them, each week if you're the lucky family to collect the eggs that week. So let's talk a little bit about school. You are also going to school full time and boarding dogs and raising your baby.
Yep.
How are you balancing this all? Or are you?
Well, so I tried to go back to school while I was pregnant, and it didn't work out great. And then I tried again actually 2 days before I gave birth, and did a whole semester of school then. Also was really rough because COVID had just began. So everything was messed up. So I took another break.
You started class and gave birth 2 days later, and you did a whole semester while you were on like maternity leave time?
Yep. Mm-hmm. And
during COVID.
Yeah. I was online, so it made it a lot easier.
Right.
And it wasn't a huge workload that time. But I did decide I was trying to go back beginning of this year. But I held off and I started the semester in August
Okay.
of this year. And I'm 5 classes at a time. It's difficult. I only have one class that's on Zoom. The rest is all kind of go at your own pace, so I can get ahead. Or if I'm somehow awake late at night and not doing anything else, I can, jump on and do a few assignments or get ahead or finish something that maybe I got behind on.
I learned something about myself, and this was, gosh, oh my goodness, 12, 15 years ago when I was doing my master's degree. I learned that I struggled a little bit with the self-paced. It was easier for me to show up in class. And nowadays it would have been easier for me to show up to a live Zoom event,
Mhm.
just so that I, have no reason to push things off, to procrastinate. I do really well with showing up for these recordings. But sometimes it's, a little easier for me to get distracted with like my work around the home and the family duties and things like that. So I like having that set schedule. How are you doing with it? Are you a self-motivated person?
So I I think this time the biggest difference was I really, really wanted to go back to school. So
Mhm.
that helps. I sat down a month before classes started. I wrote up, my short term, midterm, and long term goals
Yeah.
in different categories, whether it be education, financial, health, and I I think I do well because my time is very valuable to me. And something that found really frustrating in college back then was sometimes you're just there because it's that long. It's not that the material takes an hour and a half. It's could take 15 minutes, but you're
Oh,
just
yep.
there because of seat time.
Hmm.
And then you've got drive time. And I can't be away from the dogs that much, but
Right.
I value my time enough and my comfort that I am more than happy to motivate myself to do it at home.
Well, are you able to pet a dog, have them comforted at your feet or whatever and get your work done, or are they distracting to you?
I like I said earlier with the upstairs, usually the dogs, senior dogs, dogs with medical issues, or dogs that are really nervous, it's their first day or something, they usually spend a lot of time in the office with me because it's a very calm environment.
Mm-hmm.
They sleep under the desk, they sleep by the door.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I got two or three in here. It
Yeah.
just kind of depends.
Do you have any in there with you right now?
I don't. I am afraid they're going to bark.
What about your classes? Are you ever needed to be on camera or on audio where that would be an issue?
I just have one class that's the Zoom class, and it's a very relaxed class. They're more
Hmm.
than happy to see, dogs popping up in the back here and there.
So it is interactive, like you are on camera,
Oh yeah,
but
yeah.
okay. Because
And
I know like a lot
I
of
have
them are just
audio.
lecture. So
No, it's very interactive. The one class that I have on Zoom, we have multiple activities throughout the day or throughout
okay.
the class, I guess, where we, group up. I guess
Hmm.
Zoom has an option for, grouping different people up and doing activities there and coming back. And we use external resources to also do other activities. So it's very interactive. And if you aren't there, then you're missing out.
One of the things that I learned was helpful with, having kids in the house is I have my headset that has a mute button on it. So like you can mute yourself on Zoom and everyone can see that you're muted, but you could also mute yourself on your headset. And it's a little bit more of a secret mute
Mhm.
that I would use for, like if I needed to clear my throat really loudly or if my kid was knocking on the door. um, I see you're wearing a nice big headset. Is that a Bluetooth
No,
headset or is
it's
it
plugged
wired?
into my computer. It's it's not mine. It's the gaming headset.
Oh,
I'm
right.
just
Got it.
borrowing it.
Yeah. So do you usually even use a headset at all then when you're in your class?
No, I just have open sound.
Can you talk a little bit about how you communicate with your clients, your dog people, your dog owners?
Communication via how I continue to talk to them or how I at first
I guess just how do you
communicate with
get the
them.
word out that you do your boarding and your training and your dog sitting? And then, how do you maintain it? Because I know that, working from home isn't just literally, having dogs in your home. You had to get them, you had to get the word out. And why don't you just talk a little bit about how you let people know about your business?
So my biggest form of what I like to call my advertisement is through a company called Rover. And this is like a giant database for sitters. Your background checked, you write a bio, you have, specific requirements for dogs that you have or will host, I guess. And people can leave reviews. You have your pricing up on there, and it makes it really easy for people to reach out. The only downside to sticking with Rover is they do take quite a bit, which is frustrating. Usually with people though, like my regulars, they find me on Rover once and then we switch over after.
Mm-hmm.
I've been on Rover since 2016, so a lot longer than a lot of the people on there. So I've got plenty of reviews to read through, and my bio is very full.
I feel like the whole taking a percentage is kind of across the board, across a lot of different. Okay, for instance, Outschool is kind of like the way that online teachers can teach kids like, like K through 12 kids, classes or conduct clubs or camps or, one-on-one tutoring. But I
Mhm.
think they still take like maybe even up to 30%. I can't remember because I haven't done it for a while. Like to get back into that, but there's always that thing where you need to be like, I am on here to kind of get my foot in the door, but having that website is handy. You just have to be sure that you're not breaking the terms of agreement.
They do pay attention to the conversation. So if they see anything,
Mm,
they send you an email. They don't ever do anything about it, but they send you an email. I
yeah.
think it's meant to startle people.
Yeah.
Luckily, I joined 2016 because I believe 2018 or 2019 they switched from taking 15% to 20%. So I got
Hmm.
a little lucky staying back there.
And you got
Um,
grandfathered into that rate. Yeah.
yeah, my prices are my own, and because they take a percentage, I do charge a little bit
Yeah.
higher on
Yeah.
Rover than I would, otherwise. But I do advertise also on our local next door group. I'm in a lot of Facebook groups that are very breed specific.
Hmm.
Um, a lot of people, like for example, I have German Shepherds and an Australian Shepherd. And people who have German Shepherds are very specific with who takes their dog because these dogs, have a background that makes some people uncomfortable or they're difficult to handle. Some are great, but they're just perceived wrong. And so they prefer to find somebody who has experience with German Shepherds or has German Shepherds because they get along great together. So I do a lot of advertising in uh, like the German Shepherd groups or the Aussie groups or the dog mom group.
Okay. Do you find that you end up training some of the dogs you board or board some of the dogs that you train?
Yeah, I I get a lot of people with puppies who, reach out to me either after or during, and they're like, "Hey, can we set something up, or can you work with my dog while they're at your house?" Which is an absolutely, because I am always here to work on puppy behavior. I love puppies. I don't love the behavior that comes with them. But my profile is really, really, I guess I could say, open in terms of, I require very specific things. There's some things that are an absolute no-no. And I talk a lot about the training and my background in, I guess that you could say, in vet med and the longer background in training. So a lot of people actually reach out to me to request training instead of boarding. So
Okay.
it's kind of a mix.
And if you're training someone that you're boarding, can you charge more?
Yeah. Board and trains are pretty expensive at facilities. You can expect for a 2 to 3 week sort of board and train, depending on whether it's for obedience or you're actually, fighting a behavioral issue. It runs anywhere between, 3 and 7 grand for that entire time, which is really pricey. And a lot of people who really need it can't afford that. So when I do board and trains, it's mostly in terms of, the boarding rate. And then I do 3 sessions a day with dogs who are board and trained. So then it's an individual charge for each session each day, which still comes out to a lot less than 3 to 7 grand.
Right.
Um, I I do hope to eventually have a facility where we can do that with more trainers, make it a lot easier, and we could help more people in that term.
So that's your long-term goal right now?
Yeah, there's a big long-term goal surrounding that, but at the moment, that's one of the things that we're working towards.
Well, if you had someone else that can train with you or that can help you with boarding, then you wouldn't be tied to your home 24/7.
That depends on, you know, who I have boarding with me.
Right.
Some dogs require a lot of time spent, watching them. Some dogs are destructive or some have separation anxiety, and I really don't want my house destroyed. So
Mhm.
I'm home a lot more, whereas I've got a few regulars who are very, very calm, and they're definitely a part of my pack now. They love my dogs. They get along great. They kind of do the same routine together every day. And at that point, I can be away a little longer. I have had a few dogs in the past. I think around 2017 or 2018, I had one dog who's still my favorite. I did a lot of daycare for that dog, and her mom worked in the medical field, and I would take her dog on trips. We went to Sedona and Flagstaff. I took her to see her first snow.
Oh,
So,
wow.
I mean, I've done a lot with, my regulars. Some dogs who, been coming to me for a year or more, sometimes even as little as 6 months. I have a lot of people who, you know, especially with the career that they work in, really need a lot more. And house sitting was something that was really big for me pre-baby.
Yeah.
Focusing on school and my other job that I worked at the time, I house sat pretty consistently. I don't think I was home ever. I was bouncing between houses. I'd have one stay end and the other one start the same day. So I lived all over Arizona in all different houses.
So you were like live in house sitting, like not just like
As a
popping in and
dog
letting.
nanny.
Okay. Yeah. So house sitting and dog sitting.
Yeah, I just don't do the house sitting anymore because I can't be away from home.
I feel like I had another question I wanted to follow up with. But why don't you talk a little bit about what changed when you had your baby?
Well, when I had her, I guess right before I had her, I was working a job as an office manager out of somebody's house. And it was a seasonal job. So I left in, I think, November or December, and then I gave birth in January. At that point, I was not working and I spent a lot of time at home by myself with this baby that I didn't know what to do with. And I developed really, really bad social anxiety.
Mhm.
And because I didn't talk to anybody, I didn't hang out with anybody at all. So it was really lonely and I wasn't working. I had my dog, my older dog, um and then in July I made a very hormonal decision to buy uh my middle dog, my middle shepherd. And so I had that as something to do. And then I quickly jumped into another job. It was very, very part-time. I don't even know if you could call it part-time, but I taught group classes. So that was terrifying at first. I was probably red in the face and shaking the whole time I was talking to somebody, but eventually I got really comfortable with it. And from there, I switched to uh, being a vet receptionist. And at that point, I talked to a lot of people. And instead of just dealing with people who are inquiring about a service, I am now dealing with people, especially post COVID, who are angry. And it took me probably a good 3 or 4 months before I was comfortable fully handling somebody who calls and yells at me or is claiming all sorts of things that are absolutely irrelevant to me. And it sucks as a receptionist because you can't do anything about it.
And you had no control over the decisions. I do remember hearing, like, again, we don't have a dog, but that just that vet services were really backed up, like really, really backed up and overwhelmed
Yeah,
for some
they're
time. What kinds of things were people angry about?
uh, appointments, or they would call, like for example, so prescriptions, which a lot of dogs need and some need it, very consistently, they have to be filled by the doctor that you have seen prior. And people like to wait until the day their dog runs out of medication and they call and they're like, I need more. I'm like, well, your doctor isn't here till Tuesday, so I don't know what to tell you. And then they get mad about that. Or our specific hospital was not like an emergency hospital. We were more so clinic and basic surgery. And so we would have people who would, call in or show up with an animal that is in dire need of emergency
Emergency
services.
services.
And I, in most cases have to say, we don't have the material to treat your animal in this condition. So please go this way. And then they call the next day and they're mad or something. But, we're all very short staffed, and we were out so far because so many people who had waited during COVID because they didn't want the exposure to other people held off on taking their dog to the vet or their cat. Yeah. And then finally, realized, oh, I probably need to do it because it's not going away. And so they would all call in at the same time. And, whether it was new clients or existing clients, it was very hectic.
Did you also have curbside assistance at your clinic?
Our clinic, we didn't specifically do curbside unless it was very specifically requested. So we've had a few instances where we have somebody who, has a physical disability and can't, take it from the parking lot all the way inside, or has a dog that just is too much. We had a lot of moms with multiple children who can't take their 2 dogs inside, or pregnant women who can't carry their dog inside. So we did curbside assistance for that kind of thing, but primarily it was just people coming in.
I don't think I actually asked you, this is kind of changing the subject abruptly, but what are you studying for school?
I am finishing general requirements that I slacked on. I am doing a data analytics course at the moment, and I'm going to retake my real estate exam and class. That's the one I took right before I gave birth was the real estate course. And that was when COVID had began. So we had the course and it ended, I think, in June. And because of COVID, they kept putting off the final because they were like, yo, you can't come in. So I think they finally made the final available in November. And at that point, the information had gone out my head. It was, there was no way. I tried, I could not pass it. So I'm probably just going to retake it again.
Yeah.
Just cause I don't know that I want to do real estate. It might be something that I can, pop in here and there for, but I think it would be nice to have it at least.
So you're thinking possibly data analytics? Is that what you said?
So the data analytics would be kind of in the meantime, something that I can do as I continue to develop this larger business idea that I have. It's something that I can do from home, so it's perfect for me. Mm-hmm. And then, once this large business gets moving, which is what I am evidently going to school for, once it gets moving, then I will more than likely back off of the data analytics. It'll be nice to have the skill for business anyways, but I will probably just do full-time business after that.
So would that help me out? Would that be more of like a data entry type work?
It's more of like kind of like when you see a survey to gain knowledge on, how customers feel about a specific thing. And you compile all of that data together and you make a decision on, whether to keep said product, or here's how we make people happier, or here's how we keep people in a job longer, that kind of thing. So it's not necessarily entry, it's more of the study.
Does it include statistics?
Unfortunately.
It kind of kicked my butt. I don't think I even took like a formal statistics class.
I don't think it'll be formal either.
Yeah, my husband
I'm not great at math.
Pretty brainy, and even statistics kicked his butt. So, more power to you. But yeah, I really love conducting like a good like focus groups and like surveys like on a maybe less technical level. Yeah, That could be really
So it's
interesting.
like that, but then you know, you spend some time looking at the data and then you make a decision on how you want to proceed with something using the data.
My kitty is outside my door
Sad
wondering what we're doing.
kitty.
Yeah. When we have company, which we did, our out of town guests are actually renting a place here in town, but they've been with us a few times here at the beginning and a little bit at the end, maybe. So we moved my cat box out of the downstairs bathroom up into our bathroom, which is just
Mhm.
on the other side of the store here. And so she's like in close quarters with me right now. Um, these houses that we live in Arizona, I mean, obviously every, layout is going to be different, but our particular neighborhood is just very efficient in how they use their space. But that basically means there's like zero good place to put a cat box.
Right.
Do you also take care of cats?
Not in my house. I have two cats of my own.
Okay.
Uh,
3 dogs and 2 cats
yeah, and a ton of fish. I my
and birds.
favorite, no birds, sadly. My favorite thing to tell people in regards to, having dogs or cats is dogs, you go out and you find a dog. Cats appear. My cats, my oldest cat, she's pretty young. She was left at my desk at the vet. And so I took her home
Like
and
secretly, or if like someone gave her to you?
well, he came up and he didn't want to pay the fee at the Humane Society to leave an animal there. And he said if I didn't take the cat, then he would throw it out. And I was like, all right, cat is mine. And then a few months later, my neighbors come to my door with this tiny, tiny little kitten. And they're like, well, we don't know what to do with it. I'm like, okay, but I'm not keeping it. And I kept it.
Oh, so my cat came to me, like you said. The kids in our youth church that I was helping with at the time found her under my car. They're
Oh,
like, oh, look, there's this little cat. She was maybe about 2 months old, and it was like
oh,
nine
how
o'clock at
cute.
night. And we're like, we see no sign of like a mother cat or other kittens. Like, we don't know where this cat came from, but this is not safe on this busy street, like at an
Mhm.
intersection. And the kids were holding her, and I was like, get away from that dirty cat. Put that thing down. And they put her in my arms, and she's like, I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you. And she's like claiming me
Oh,
and melted my heart. And it was at a time that I was really lonely. I was living alone. My old roommate had invited me to come back and live with her, but I wanted to move south. I needed to get away from Minnesota. The winters were just like, I never was formally diagnosed with seasonal affective disorder, but I just know that that would have been a thing if I would have stayed any longer. I stayed too long.
it's the rain
The
and
rain,
the
the
clouds.
snow, the
Well, I
dark,
guess
the
the snow
bad
for you.
roads.
I'm from
Yeah.
Seattle, so
Okay.
we had
Rain. Yeah. Yeah.
the depression in
Oh,
accordance to the rain
oh
and the
yeah.
clouds.
So ours was not just dark and cold and wet, but also like literally icy roads
Oh
and
boy.
snow and like feeling like you were going to die almost every single day when you're commuting in the wintertime. And like, yeah, the 4 o'clock dark and the, 7 a.m. it would be dark. It was hard.
So you
So
picked a
anyway,
place with no snow.
yeah, I eventually got it all the way down to Arizona. I met my husband in Missouri, actually, but the cat came with me, and I think that cat kind of was what I needed that last year. What before I moved south, she
Mhm.
got me through that last really hard winter. Really, like I kind of feel like she saved me in a little way. It's funny because the kids who found her thought she was a boy. And I had enough
Oh,
experience being like, I was raised on a hobby farm and we always had kittens. And so I it's like, nope, this is a girl. I'm like, how do you know? And I'm like, magic. I have experience in this.
yeah.
Yeah, and so I named her. They wanted to call her Garfunkel, and I named her Sweet Pea. So I've got a little cat named Sweet Pea, and she's
I like it.
13. Yeah, yeah. So she's actually officially Sweet Pea Garfunkel.
That's cute.
So yeah, you're right. Cats do kind of come to you.
They do. I just can't have cats in my house aside from my own. Mine are
Right.
very rude. They like my older dog, and that's it. They don't like anything else. And our place is small enough that if I'm boarding both dogs and cats, and I'm not totally sure how the other dogs are with cats, it's really not a safe environment for them.
Oh,
So I do drop-ins for cats, and I've got some
okay.
regulars that I do, but other than that, I don't do the boarding portion of it.
Here comes my kitty. You want to say hi? I think she has said hi once before. She's actually not
so
a very friendly
cute.
cat, but she's pretty.
She is very pretty.
Okay.
She said, "Let me
away.
down."
So what have you found has helped you make it through this working from home and the isolation? Like, has anything been helpful to you?
Well, if we're talking in terms of avoiding burnout, which is something I have experienced more than once, it's why I actually left the vet field. Was the burnout was so bad, and there was no, work home balance.
Mm-hmm.
And so I decided that it'd be better. So I switched to, back to what I'm used to doing. And, it feels great when you have a very consistent, set of clients. And I got really excited with that, and I decided to continue booking, and I didn't give myself a break because I was like, "Oh, I'm great. This is awesome. It's going well." And I was consistent between 2 to 7 dogs at a time between May and August. And at that point, then it got really bad. So I decided, I'm like, okay, I'm going to take a week break first, and then I'm going to
Yeah.
focus on making sure I take like a 3-day break here and there.
Mm-hmm.
It got to the point where, I had dogs dropping off for daycare, and some of them drop off at like 6 or 7 a.m. And so even on the days where I didn't have anybody dropping off in the morning, I would wake up in a panic, like 30 minutes before 6 or something.
Yeah.
And I'm like, crap, somebody's going to come. And so I'm like running through my phone, looking at my appointments and my calendar. I'm like, is there anybody that's going to show up at my door? I literally could not sleep past like 5:36 because I was so panicked every morning that I had something scheduled, even though in the back of my head, I know I didn't.
Yeah.
And I'm so afraid of missing something that I freak out.
No, I totally get it because I've been teaching English for the last 3.5 years, and I was waking up at 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. And even on my day off, like literally, I didn't have to set an alarm clock. I could sleep until 9 or 11 if I wanted to. I would be up at 4 a.m. because your
It's
body
rough.
is accustomed to that clock. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I would
So,
worry about, what's going on in the house. Like it'd be 2 a.m. and I'd be sitting there, what's that sound or something. So I went
oh,
and I bought cameras. So I have cameras everywhere. So I can, at any point of the day or the night, if I'm home or not home or in bed,
mhm,
I can
mhm.
open my phone and I can check and see what everybody is doing.
Are they like baby monitor cameras,
It's like the
home
the
security type?
cheaper indoor cameras that you can buy
Yeah.
at Target. But I mean, they're not great, and they don't, like, the inside ones don't record unless I specifically am on there and I request it to for the time that
Okay.
I am viewing. So if
Okay.
something is happening, I can pop up and record it. But
Mhm.
if something happened, I can't go back and see. But
Right.
mostly I have it so that I can pop on at any point and see what's going on. So it's not a huge necessity to me that I can actually go back.
Does that help you sleep better,
It
having it?
does. It does. I'm way tired at the end of the day anyways. I fall asleep the second my head hits the pillow. It's
I'm the
just I'll
same.
wake up periodically.
Yeah. It's like
That's my
having a
only problem.
newborn, I bet. Like that kind of, you're always sleeping a little light and
I
always feel
have
like
bat
you need,
ears.
yeah.
The slightest sound, I am like, I'm wide awake every single time.
And do you feel like you need to have those bat ears, or do you feel like you could start to like use a white noise machine to help you sleep? Or do you feel like you shouldn't?
I I can pretty much hear through noise. If I know that something is, going on, I can hear it. Like when my daughter will be watching a movie or something, and she'll make the slightest sound, just like
Mhm.
maybe like a ah or something like that, slightest
Mhm.
sound. And even though the TV is all the way up, I'm like, I just heard her. Like I know it's weird. I've never had ears like that before. I was a heavy sleeper, but I do have selective hearing, so I
Yeah, yeah.
choose. Um, but with puppies, when they're quiet, usually something is going on.
Oh,
So when it's too quiet, I'm like, all right, what are you doing?
Got
So
it.
that I have to be able to listen because puppies get into things. Although a
Mhm.
crate training is a must at my house for
Okay.
boarding, it gives, dogs a place of their own.
Mhm.
It keeps them away from other dogs while they're eating. Um, they can have toys in there, but they can't have toys in big groups because I don't know who can share and who can't, always at
Yeah.
least. And crates keep puppies safe because they will chew things and they'll swallow things, and you don't want to hide vet bill. So crates are a must at my house.
Yeah, that makes sense. You said that you had 2 to 7 dogs at a time. Are we talking like the doggy daycare hours, or are we talking overnights as well?
Both.
And are you doing weekends, like 24/7, 7 days a week kind of thing?
Yep. All the time.
Do you have a limit? Like at some point you're like, I'm full, I can't take anybody.
Yes. It mostly depends on the size of dogs and the energy of dogs. So, like, for example, I can have, we'll say, like 3 large dogs if I only have, the rest are small dogs.
Okay.
And then the energy level. So, who gets along well with who? So, my older dog has mellowed out over the past year. He is really, really great with also older dogs because he's very calm, and he's great with dogs who are fearful. And he is really great with the tiny dogs. Even if they've got the energy, he's better suited for play groups because I do separate play groups. And then my middle dog, she is a nut, basically bouncing off the walls with energy. She recharges in 30 seconds.
It's like
And
my
so
9-year-old son.
she's a perfect fit for dogs who are very high energy and puppies. She's really great about picking up the cues of like, hey, I know they realize they don't want to play anymore, so I'm done. She'll back off. And my older dog is good with younger puppies because he's good at teaching those cues of, hey, that hurts, that's too much. And so my size really depends on what size of dog and what temperament of dog and who can go in what group. Because if I have too many in one group, then it makes it really difficult to alternate between.
So what has made that easier for you? Like, have you figured out a rhythm over the last few years that you've, giving yourself a little bit more downtime by having the play groups go out at certain times and give yourself a rest kind of thing?
Yeah, so I'm up early morning, and that makes it a lot easier during summer. That's the
Mhm.
longest time that dogs can be outside. So I try to do early morning. The relaxed dogs go out and they do their thing. And majority of the time, they just want to come back in.
Okay.
And then after that, our crazy crew go out and they can do, an hour or so of play, if not longer,
Mhm.
depending on the temperature. And then everybody comes in, they go in their crate, they eat breakfast, and then they have an hour or so of downtime, which allows their food to digest and prevents bloat. So they get that time, and then we do small increments of time uh, over the day. Again, depending on the temperature outside, sometimes it's longer. Summer months, it has to be 5 minutes max because
Mhm.
it's too hot otherwise.
Wait, you're talking in the daytime,
Yeah.
like when the sun is up?
Yep. Nighttime, pretty much like you were going backwards on the morning routine. Everybody eats, takes a break, then they go out, then it's bedtime. And once it's
Mhm.
bedtime, that's it. I've got music playing constantly downstairs. It's dark, it's nice. Everybody's upstairs, all the people at least. And so I try to create that environment where they get downtime too,
Mhm.
which allows me to have my downtime. Again, some dogs have a really hard time with that, and they howl and they bark all night. And it is difficult because it's a whole lot of sleep lost.
Mhm. Um, how many times do you have to go out and scoop poop in a day? That's a lot of dogs.
They our yard is primarily rock and dirt. So half the time it disappears. I don't know where it goes. I think it just slips under the dirt or something, but it's usually, 3 or 4 times a week that we end up doing that. And it's in big loads when we do.
Mhm. Mhm.
It's rough.
I've been following some posts by a woman who's in our local city group and or town group, I guess, a town of 250,000 or whatever we have. But she's like a professional pooper scooper. And she said that she has like 200 to 300 pounds of poop every week that she has to dispose of. And I'm assuming you're not quite there because you're not a professional pooper scooper, but kind of probably feels like it some days.
Some days. I've looked into, maybe picking up a
Adding that
service
to your
like that.
service. Yeah.
Well, hiring somebody to do it because it's very tedious.
Oh, I see. Yes.
However, most of the time their pricing goes based off of amount of dogs, and my amount of dogs varies.
Yes.
And I have a lot at a time.
Yeah.
And for the money that I make just boarding dogs, it's not feasible. Eventually, it would. And eventually, at one point in the future, that's what kids are for. I know I was for chores, helping with the dishes.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, my 10-year-old just did the cat sitting job, and it's not great pay. But for her it is, compared to the zero money that she's usually making.
Right. It's exciting.
We don't currently pay for chores, like they're just expected. I mean, eventually we probably will. I think my family, I always made like at least $5 a week, for doing, but we were like mowing lawn and like scrubbing bathrooms every, day because we had a million kids in our family. And eventually we'll get there. But yeah, $5 a day for a 10-year-old is still pretty great money.
Yeah, our parents didn't do allowance. They were more on, if you do your chores, then you can go out and have free time. If you don't, then you get more chores. Ours
is now tied to video games. Like we have a Switch that they would love to play
every day. My brother has
been
there.
Yeah. Yep. So that's how we roll and how we get things done. But yeah, I think eventually it'll be more motivating for them. Oh my gosh, my middle kid is just so jealous that my 10-year-old has a career. She has 2 careers because now she can twist balloons and cat sit. And he is just like, what can I do for a career? And I'm like, first of all, you're dying. So we're not really talking about careers right now, but like if you want to pull weeds, maybe some of your neighbors will pay you for that. He's really good at keeping our yard free of weeds.
My little brother was just like that growing up because I was always, trying to start something new. Rolling in the dough. And he was always like, well, I want to do something. And I mean, we came up with so many ideas for him. Not that he ever followed through, but a really good one that a lot of people needed was cleaning trash cans.
Ooh.
Like you go to Walmart and you buy one of the big scrub brushes, a few cleaners, and, you bring a few gallons of water and you walk around and you scrub out people's trash cans because they get so bad and people will pay for that.
In Arizona, they just reek. I actually put our trash can back this morning and I'm like, ugh.
It's bad. But that's
how much
something
can one
that he was
charge for that service?
Probably anything depending on your area. Yeah. I would say people would probably pay an average of maybe 15 to 20 for that.
Oh man, I was at a shot at 5, so that sounds great.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I think that would include if you wanted to do like both recycle and trash can.
There you go.
But I mean, it's tedious and it's gross work. So it's, something that people will pay for because they don't want to do it.
So obviously, if anyone who's listening is local to Gilbert, Arizona, they can find Willow to be, a great resource for pet sitting and I guess doggy daycare or training. But do you have any advice for anyone who might be interested in adding this as like a side gig, like in addition to like, I don't know, a day job? Is it even possible to be a doggy daycare and work from home?
It is. You have to be open about your time with people because it's hard to understand what people's expectations are. Mm-hmm. And some people I've come across who are very chill. They don't care. They're like, as long as my dog is with somebody, I don't care. And then some people who, they want their dog to have attention 24/7, which is not something that somebody who works from home can provide. Yeah. I do let people know like, hey, I have an office, dogs spend time with me in the office. Mm-hmm. That's my solitary time. Mm-hmm. I do run quick errands here and there. So I'm not, I like to say I'm home 90% of the time.
Okay.
But not all the time. And so if you're open with people about the fact that you also work from home, which most people will appreciate, by the way,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um, then you'll avoid the stress of dealing with someone who's upset that maybe their dog isn't getting a 24/7 sort of attention.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes it a lot easier if you have dogs of your own who you know are great with specific types of dogs, like active dogs, or they're very chill, and you can adjust to, taking care of only active dogs or only, senior dogs. And, whatever fits your lifestyle, do it. It can make good money. It is very time consuming, and definitely do your best to avoid burnout because it comes quick.
Right. Which aspect do you think would contribute the most or the fastest to the burnout? Would that be the overnight stuff?
I would I would say just not taking breaks in general.
Okay.
Something that I'm still needing to do that will really help me is setting like work hours,
Mm-hmm.
because I I've had people drop off as early as 4 a.m. and people pick up their dog boarding as late as 1 or 2 a.m. And I
Oh,
really need to do set hours. Like if you're not here, before 7 p.m., come in the morning.
yeah.
Like I need sleep too.
Yeah. That
I
makes
think
sense.
that's
Just be
that's one of
like,
my big problems right now that I
mm-hmm.
need to eventually establish.
They're probably just trying to avoid the extra day rate or something like that. But
And I'm flexible. I know plans get delayed, stuff
yeah,
happens, um, and I'm fine. You know, 10:30 p.m. is fine by me. If
yeah,
if your flight is truly delayed or something happens and you really can't get here, that's fine. I just not much past that because I do need my sleep.
yeah. That would be a little wild. And I can see there being a lot of similarities with child care versus doggy care. And I know that there's, like if you're 1 minute late, you're gonna be charged for the
Oh
next day
yeah.
or something like that. Like
hmm
I can see you needing to just do you have a contract that you have people sign?
I don't at the moment. The nice thing about Rover is they take care of a lot of expectations.
Okay.
So when they, sign up, they prepay for everything and
Mm-hmm.
they're covered by a thing called Rover Guarantee. It's not very beneficial, but it's like a minor form of insurance.
Okay.
So it doesn't cover a lot, but it covers some, which is just a nice kind of background thing. I do require all vaccines and any other special instructions, because I have multiple dogs from multiple families at a time. It is
Yeah.
important to keep everybody safe. I also send a giant paragraph with all of my rules and instructions and how I run things so people understand, how I work and how their dog is going to be experiencing the next, couple days to a couple weeks so people are prepared in advance.
So a giant paragraph. So that's probably a little bit like a contract, just like these are,
Just
some
nobody signs it.
expectations. Got it. Yeah. Okay. A verbal, a nonverbal
A
expectations.
visual.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. And how long have you boarded a dog before?
Oof. I think my longest boarding ever was probably 2.5 months.
Oh my.
It was an experience.
Like overseas kind of trip or something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've done house sitting that was really long too, around that same time frame. Um, and I've had smaller boardings that are still quite long. And this is usually those ones are when people, have a baby or they have an emergency trip out or they don't know how long they'll be gone for. And we usually keep it to like that 2 month limit of like, we'll find out where we are at a month and a half. And if we still need it, then we have to plan ahead, sort of thing.
I'm curious about collaboration with other dog boarders in the area. Like, do you have like a backup or someone that you can refer to, or like when you take your vacation, that someone could pick up some of the dogs?
So I don't necessarily have anyone local in Gilbert. I am on a Facebook page for dog sitters, and if I need to, I can post something like, "Hey, is anybody available to take this?" I was previously located in North Phoenix, and so I have a few of my clients that were fairly regular back then, who rarely need something, but they do here and there. And I've got a friend who still lives up in North Phoenix that takes care of that for me.
Good for you. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that connection is probably helpful, but otherwise they're on their own. Go find someone else.
Pretty much.
Yeah. So in the future, your plan to make your isolation a little easier to manage, do you have like a next step, like something that you would like to implement to make that part of your work from home journey a little easier?
I love hosting things. When I have people come over, the planning prior and the duration of it is a lot better. And I need to do that more now that everybody's kind of back in town again. I'll probably start hosting my, monthly party. Mostly it's a game night and some dinner.
Right. I think
I
you and
just
I
need
should
that
probably
social.
team up on that.
Oh yeah.
We've been super isolated through the pandemic, and we're still ongoing isolated because of, having 3 kids under the age of 12 who can't be vaccinated yet. But I always was like hosting game nights and movie nights and dinners and, book clubs and
I
just
love
like
it.
anything I could. I mean, in the Buy Nothing group, one of the things I love to take if I'm going to receive something is anything that would be good for like entertaining, like big platters and surfing
Yeah.
bowls and
That's fun. I love hosting. I love having people over. It makes it really difficult when I have a lot of dogs though. So usually I have to wait till I slow down a bit to do that because it's hard having a lot of people in a small house with a lot of dogs.
Right. So during that time of year that everything is slow, do you ever give yourself a weekend? You said sometimes a 3-day weekend.
Yeah, I've been doing that a lot more recently. I am going up north for the first time in a long time, just for a few nights. My parents went and rented a cabin up there, so I'm gonna ditch my house and head up there.
Good for you.
I'm excited.
All right. Well, any final thoughts before we wrap it up?
I don't have anything.
Thank you, Will. This has been a fun conversation. I learned a few things, definitely. And don't have a dog that needs to be cared for, but definitely I will keep you in mind. There are a lot of dogs in Arizona. I don't know what the statistics are as far as like compared to other places, but I have lived multiple places and I have never seen so many dogs. Is it like a thing here?
I'm not sure. It's been a long time since I've lived not in Arizona.
Yeah.
It seems like everybody seems to have one these days, unless they have allergies.
If someone wanted to reach out to you, is there a good way for them to find you? Like look for you in Rover or?
You can look for me through Rover just by looking up the locals in Gilbert. You can reach me through my email.
Yeah, I'll put it in the show notes. All right. Thank you, Willow. Appreciate you chatting with me. And I hope I get to meet you in real life here soon. Maybe we'll have to host a movie night or game night sometime soon.
I'm down for that.
All right. This has been Willow Aldridge. I'm April Malone with Yes, I Work From Home, and we'll see you next time. Thank you so much, Willow.
Bye.
Take care.